Oh, yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here on a Tuesday afternoon. It is 3 o'clock Pacific. I have a lot of friends that are chiming in from overseas, so I appreciate you guys for staying up late. Today's going to be a blast, man. But before we get started, I want to thank my sponsors at 5 Star Guitars. 5 Stars based in Oregon, and there's no sales tax. So if you go to this link down below, 5starguitars.com/allaccesslive, you're going to get 15% off all the merchandise on that page. There are 5 pages full of gear, tons of stuff. Great guitars, great accessories, and you get 50% off using the promo code ALLACCESS15. So go there. You can also get lessons from pros like Jennifer Batten. You can do lessons online, and you can get repairs done, and there's no sales tax because it's in Oregon. So you're going to save tons of dough. Make sure that you shop local. This is a big Christmas time right now, so they've got this incredible Paul Reed Smith gold that I've just been drooling about, and I don't even play guitar. So now, before we get started, I have to tell you guys how excited I am about today. Most of you know the inside scoop. My nickname, Kevy Metal, comes from my passion about 80s hard rock and heavy metal. That's the stuff that I grew up on, the seminal stuff that got me playing drums. And one of the bands that inspired me the most has this incredible history. There's a timeline and a family tree of this band that will blow your mind. And so I'm going to bring them in one by one. I got my buddies Dave Alford, got Chris Hager, my brother Steven Santiago, Jeff Buhner. Look at these guys, man. Awesome. Thank you for being here.
How's it going?
Hey, Kevin.
One of my favorite things is to check out people's backdrops. And I'm going to say on this one, Dave Alford wins for the coolest backdrop. We got the Christmas studio. Tell me about that studio, Dave.
It's Casa Casaba. It's where Rough Cutt's currently doing our new record. It's also the engineer that's working on the stuff home. He lives here too.
Okay.
So it's very comfortable. We can't wait for the summer to come because there's a pool out back, and it's just a really good, comfortable place to work in.
And you are
it's got the best Christmas decorations.
Yeah, the Christmas decorations are amazing, man. I think
those trees are black. They're not green.
That's metal.
They are metal.
that is metal.
You're in LA area, right?
Yes.
All right. And you mentioned the pool out back, so I don't know what the weather's like down there. In Portland, it's rainy and drizzly.
Yeah.
It's rainy in Portland?
Amazing.
Oh,
Huh? Yeah. What's it like down What's it like in Cali right now?
Oh, man.
Well, I'll let them tell you what it's like up in their Cali in Huntington Beach, Surf City, California. It's, a beautiful kind of, light 70s day.
Oh,
T-shirt weather, shorts weather.
That's water weather for me, man. I'm all
absolutely.
That Huntington Beach Pier. Jeff and I have we've done a lot of hangs down there. Is it Rosie's? Yep. Is that the beach? Is that the restaurant there?
Ruby's.
That's what it is. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great, man. We've got people from the UK. We've got people from Michigan. This is nice to see this. I'm going to chime in with people's questions in the chat in a little bit, but I want to go through the introductions really quick. Now, most people that are watching this, they know Rough Cutt. They know the history. They probably don't know that there's this freaking unbelievable record coming out. I was a little bit, I got a little behind the scenes. I got to listen to the new track. I'm not going to talk about what it is, but it blows my mind. It's incredible, man. I think what I would love to let people know is that it has the tradition, the original sound of what the band has been from the beginning, but it still has a modern vibe to it too. So there's really a tribute, to what the band has been from the very beginning, and it's going to be, I think, the biggest thing to come yet from this band, because the hook is huge, man. So I know you guys just did a video for it as well, so we'll get into that. But Dave, can you give us a little bit of the family tree? You want to tell me about the origin of Rough Cutt and how things formulated?
Oh boy. Started with me moving to California, okay, and then I've stayed in touch with Ronnie James Dio, and once he saw us play, he said he got his wife to manage us as a whole band, and then Jake left to go to Ozzy, and we got Craig, and then Craig left to go to Jafia, and we got Amir, and when we got Matt, Chris came in, and that's when we got a record deal, okay? And she handled the whole thing. But it's been, I think this right here is first, second, third, fourth. This is the fourth lineup, I think.
Save the
Right,
best for last.
Chris?
Major lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, just a fourth lineup. But man, this is the best lineup. I guarantee you that. You've heard the song. You
I
tell
have. It blows my mind. Honestly, this is not me blowing smoke up your guys' ass. I was really fortunate to hear just prior to the new mix, and then I heard the new mix yesterday, and I got goosebumps.
Great, man.
Goosebumps, man. I
So
got to
glad
tell
you
you, like, I've seen other stuff that Steven's done online. I've been, a big fan of his singing and the stuff that he's been live streaming. But, dude, you've got pipes, man. And not only do you have incredible lead singer vibe and chops, but, man, the combination between you and Dave's voice blows my mind. The harmonies.
Dave's a blast to sing with because he's just got – it's funny, if you follow me online at all or on Facebook or whatever, you know that I love aviation. One of the things I love is aviation. And I always liken Dave's vocals to following a lead vocal like the Blue Angels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They stick really close together.
That, you know what? I mean, that's a pretty good analogy for the whole band. When you guys watch you guys live, that was another thing too, man. People might not realize that you guys did a handful of shows just prior to the pandemic, right? You were one of the last guys that I got to see live, and I was really glad to see you guys come to Portland. Chris, man, I've seen you on, videos for sure, man, but, back in the day and watching Dave, man, back in the early Hit Parader and Circus Magazine days. And, but seeing this lineup now is so strong. It's huge, man. It feels like you're watching an
Not bad for a bunch of old men, huh?
Yeah, man. It's an arena rock show. You put an arena rock show into, these theaters. And so I felt pretty fortunate, right, that I got to see one of the last things before you guys took a break. And you were doing – the set list is amazing.
That means a lot. Thanks.
Well, these guys that are watching in the chat right here, if you've been a Rough Cutt fan, you know the hits, of course, man, but I like Take Her was always one of my favorites, and but the fact that you did like Black Widow, which is a huge fan favorite, and I thought it's really going to be great when this pandemic ends for you to come and introduce the new music, because most bands that come out there and they try to introduce new stuff, people in the crowd go, oh yeah, okay, time for a drink, they head back to the bar. This stuff is, like I said, stronger, at least as strong as anything you've ever written, and I think it's better for modern, and so it's only a matter of speculation when the pandemic ends. But when you guys release this single, maybe Chris, you could talk a little bit about this. I think it'd be great to know how you plan maybe to introduce new music mixed with the old, and then where you drew the inspiration. I know that Dave, you were a primary writer on this stuff, but maybe talk about how you and Dave write together.
Well, yeah, it's sort of a group effort. I usually come up with riffs, and then, hey guys, it's how a lot of bands write. Somebody comes up with an idea, and then we feed it to each other. And one guy will say, "Hey, I've got something for that goes great with that." So I've got a home studio right here, as a lot of us do. And so it's real easy for me to sit down. I get an idea and I can just put it down and then shoot it over and, get a yay or nay from these guys. And that's how a lot of it starts. We just do it from our homes, and which is far different than what we used to.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's just night and day. It used to be we'd go to this big rehearsal studio and spend $100 an hour sitting around rehearsing and having 5 guys coming up with ideas. That worked too, but I think if there's one thing beneficial that I can say about this new paradigm is that you can really do a lot more, in a sense. You can hear what it's going to sound like, and I'm glad to hear you think that. To hear you say that you hear some classic Rough Cutt and you hear some new, because that's exactly what we were going for.
Yeah.
We wanted to stay true to an extent with what we had done, but we didn't want to redo it.
Right.
We wanted to make it, give it
what he said.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You mentioned the new paradigm, and it's great to hear people talk about some benefits that they can find, especially right now during the pandemic. I mean, there's tons of stuff that people could really complain about, how their life has been affected. Guilty, man. I mean, I thrive on stage, man. I need it so bad. but this opportunity to talk.
You too, huh?
Yeah, man. Like it's where I need to be. But being able to talk about that stuff and talk to other musicians who get it is helpful. And I think, bless you, there are some benefits, I think, to recognizing the stuff we took for granted before, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah.
But, there are a lot of advantages. So, leverage those.
we're gonna get into nicknames in a second, man. But I was thinking about your history, and I know that Chris, you and Steven, you were in a band together before, right? You want to talk, introduce your old bandmate, and talk about the new?
Yeah. Well, Stephen Piercy and I we formed Rat.
Oh, I was talking about the new singer here. This guy.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's funny because
we can get into the Rat stuff.
After Stephen and I played together, he was my next singer. So Stephen
Piercy,
Santiago, whatever he's going by these days.
St. James means Santiago.
We had a band 30 years ago we were playing together, and that was called Sarge. So, and that was right before Rough Cutt. So there's a lot of history. There's a lot of real rich history with all of us. But yeah.
Like you mentioned the Rat thing. Dave and I were talking offline a little bit about like the old management with the Dio connection and Craig Goldie. It's funny because Jeff and I were talking yesterday about how when he sits down with you guys, it's like walking into a Hard Rock Cafe or this historical rock and roll place where you just hear about all this mind blowing rock history. And he said he just got up and walked out. He said, "I'm not even worthy of being around you guys." So 30 years ago, Steven Santiago, man, you were with Chris and Sarge. Stylistically, and did that band get signed? They were a label deal, right?
No.
And Stephen.
Chris and I, we laughed about this years later. I mean, we laughed about this decades later, literally. But I was in just a local Redondo Beach band with some friends, and we were playing a place called Guitarist on the Strip, and we'd always end up landing on the same dates as Rat. So they had like 4 or 5 stages at that place. So we'd be on one stage playing covers. Rat would be on the other stage doing originals, and Chris and I, we'd say hi to each other at this place across the street. You guys know Gil Turner's on Sunset Strip. It was a liquor store, and we'd chat with each other, and eventually we just, hey, why don't we put a band together? And Dave laughed about this in another interview, but he says essentially what happened with Steve is he stole every band member from Sarge out of Rat. It was me, and then it was Matt, who also ended up was in Rough Cutt, Matt Thorne, and for a while we had Bobby Marks, Bobby Eisenberg, who also was in Rat, and then late, I think the only guy that wasn't in Rat was Kurt Meyer, who we got as our drummer later, and he ended up in Salty Dog, great drummer.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did Sarge for about 2.5 years. Great band. We were just this close to, I think, jump off. And, I think the good and the bad of that is that all of us are starting musicians at this time. We're all in our 20s. We're kids, basically. Right. And I get a call from Motown, and we love you. We saw you at a show the other night. We love you. It was just like, I could use the money.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
And he had to come and tell me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's that.
Was it Barry Gordy called you?
I apologize for it later.
A lot of amends to make up for now. For people that may have gotten to hear the new stuff, I see that Michelle Cantrell out there says the new song blows her mind. These guys rock. I think she said.
She's a great friend of the band.
I think the people that have followed you guys, like Dave. I mean, back to the early days, and I remember when I was 15, right, when I got the self-titled record, and then 16 when Wants You came out, and those were seminal times for me. I mean, those times were my sort of foray into rock and roll. I just became obsessed. Scorps, you talked about, we talked offline about Scorpions, my favorite band of all time. And I think, you become so connected as a teenager to bands that you want to follow them forever, right? I mean, you feel like they're part of your family, part of your childhood, part of growing up. So when
Well,
you've got,
that's what influences are all about.
yep,
In my opinion.
yeah,
I mean, if you're a musician, something has to influence you to get you started on your journey. Oh, I want to be like that guy.
right,
I want to.
Right.
Paul McCartney was, man, you know.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
but the fans, like I call them fans, but for me, man, people become friends, right? I mean, they're so supportive that once you're home during the pandemic and you look back at all the people that supported you,
Yeah.
your perspective changes, right? You realize how many people had your back, man. We're buying your records and traveling to go see shows. People like Michelle here from Michigan, right? Who you said has been a friend of the band for a long time. It's kind of neat that you can still maintain a relationship with people through social media. A lot of people can be the champion behind your cause, right? To get out there and promote and help kind of get the word out about new stuff. And somebody that, I kind of feel like I've grown up with in the last 25 years is my neighbor, your bass player, Jeff Buhner. Jeff Buhner, man, I told these guys before you hopped on that one of the neatest things was when you were going down and starting to work with the band, how you come to be first, because you knew I was a huge Rough Cutt fan, and you'd say, check this out. And I was prying you for information, like, man, are they doing this song? And how do they do this? And
for sure.
One of the things that I love about it is that you and I got to discover a lot of genres and stuff together, man. You and I have been on stage a bunch. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
personally, man, I told Dave this. You saved my spirit this year. Last couple months, especially, man. We talked.
He
about
did say that.
You've been like a brother to me for a long time, and I'm excited to see this formation because I know what you bring to a band. And Dave said the same thing about you, man. He said that what you bring to the band is so strong. So having this reverence for each other, to me, it's so rare, right? I mean, most bands hate each other most of the time, right? They're traveling on, separate cars. They show up at different times, and
immediately they wind up hating each other. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So Jeff, I mean, as the newest member, right? You want to talk a little bit about how things evolved for you to kind of become more of a band and not just like showing up as like a member, as a side guy.
Well, first it kind of started out, our friend Lisa Paulus hit me up and said that these guys were thinking about doing something new. And I went down, I learned a bunch of the music, and then they started doing, shortly after they started doing the Rough Riot thing with Carlos and Sean McNabb and Paul. Mm-hmm. And then when that didn't really come to fruition, they called me back. And so I had already kind of had half of the songs in the tank already. I already kind of knew them, and so went down there. Brandon Cook and I actually went down there, and we played through the songs, and it fit really well. I mean, Dave and I immediately had a chemistry, and you know how important that relationship is. It's just like when you and I play, it's kind of a very similar kind of a instant thing, where you don't have to push and pull and fight to find a pocket.
I didn't stand up and throw my sticks down.
Yeah.
You did. Yes, you did.
Not
did
then.
At least one time.
But you certainly did it. You did it the Bossa Nova, those.
He didn't throw them down. He threw them at me.
Yeah, that's right.
He was establishing dominance
right.
in the food chain. No, and anyway, it was just really cool. It's like walking in like to jam with these guys in Mate's studio in Hollywood. It was like that alone is just a cool thing to do. I had done a couple showcases down there in the past, and it's just always such a cool room to rehearse in, because you've got a full PA, a full 60-foot stage, and and it's just like, oh my God, what is this? And and then meeting Chris for the first time, and I've seen him in multiple different situations. It was like walking into like a hit parade magazine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like took me way back. And to high school, basically. These guys were kind of and so it was cool walking into it, and immediately Dave and Chris told me some stories, like that, and then in walks Steven, and he just kills it, and I'm just like, wow, this is a cool thing, let's do something with this, and let's make some progress, and that's kind of how it all came together, man, and it just kind of fit. I made multiple trips down to Hollywood, and we got together and jammed quite a few times and wrote, and then I recently went down like kind of like a couple months into the pandemic and tracked a few songs, and we had to do it really carefully because Chris was on a vacation at the time. So David laid out the drum tracks, and and some of the songs I kind of had to blindly go into and stuff like that. But it was, how the process goes. You just, you come in and you do touch ups as needed. But anyway, yeah, it was just a really cool thing to walk into, and working with Bob was super easy. We actually, I mean, there's a lot of really great aspects to the recording process and the writing process, and Dave and Chris and Steven are all great writers. And so their input is super valuable and respected. And that's kind of how it all kind of came together. And then listening to the outcome has been impressive. I was like, wow, this is really cool. So
it better be you called me after my bedtime.
We're missing one guy, but
tell me about Darren.
Darren's amazing.
I know that Dave is the quiet guy, so I'm going to try and drag some information out of you. But Dave, you want to tell me a little bit about your other guitarist?
Dave's our mysterious member. He's kind of soft spoken.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I'll have Chris tell us, because as another guitarist, we could talk about Darren and how that works together.
Darren, well, first of all, I mean, he's an amazing player. I mean, he's just really good.
Agreed.
I mean, I would put him in the shredder category. No qualms at all. And super nice guy, real easy to get along with, and he's no ego, comes in, and it's just, he's kind of like a dream player, really.
He is.
It's not fair. The guy shows up, takes his shirt off, and you're like, oh my God.
I know.
Of course, right? You're already a badass player, and then you've got that physique. But the cool thing about him not being here is that we can just talk shit about him.
Shoot pretty people.
But I know that he had a history with Love Hate too, which I was a big fan of.
Jizzy, he still plays off and on.
Oh, do they? Okay, big Jizzy Pearl fan, man. Love the guy.
Yeah.
I see that Scully hopped into the chat here, so it's nice to see you here, Scully, your manager.
Scully. Scully.
And Matt, my buddy.
I don't see him, man.
Oh, it's down at the very bottom there. It says "my boys." But I got a friend, Reggie Boyle, who's down in the LA area. He's seen you guys a bunch. He said that he saw you. He said he saw you guys at the LA Forum opening for Dio back in the day. Reggie, this guy, he works for well-known toy company down in LA, and he's been all over the world with my band. Like, he comes out to see A Flock of Seagulls everywhere, but he's not necessarily a Flock of Seagulls fan. He's just a buddy of ours that shows up at these shows, and he's like best friends with Vince Gill, so he and I, we share the hard rock fanaticism. So I'm glad he's here, because he probably has more historic things about your guys' past. Faith, she's here from Minnesota. It's nice to see you. Jim Jelvig from the Midlands in the UK, which is nice. And
nice.
Man, a lot of people. Oh, hey, look at that. Michelle Cantrell says hello from Michigan. Love Rough Cutt. I didn't realize that I could do the captions of their chat here, but I think it's really unfair to Jeff and Steven to cover them up. So,
and I don't see Scully still.
Oh yeah, he's hiding. He's in there.
He's over in the chat there, Dave.
He needs some high res.
Yeah, I'm on a laptop, and I only see us five.
That's all right. I think. Let's see. There we go. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see more people. Kyle Baltus is here. This guy's a wicked drummer here in Portland, and I think he was at the Rough Cutt show in Portland to see you guys at Bossa Nova too. So he plays with your bass player there. But I was saying, since Darren's not here, we can actually just talk shit about him, right? So Now, how do you guys balance that out, Chris? Where you guys, because you're both incredible players, there's a compliment to each other, and Jeff brought up respect a little bit ago.
How can you scroll down?
He's we haven't actually, what it is we haven't actually written a lot together because he's new. So I've had the songs already written, and what he's done is come in and put his ideas over the top of them. and he's really good at that. And I know he's a good songwriter as well. We just hadn't gotten that far.
Yeah.
But you know, he's real easy to work with, and you know, it's a little bit of throwback to the old lineup because we're able to do these cool double leads and stuff that me and Amir used to do, and so yeah, it just fits right in.
I feel pretty spoiled, like I said, to have got to see you guys do this thing live, because you would never know that it was a new lineup. You know, the band looks like the band you've been playing for decades. I mean, part of that too, man. Like Steven, you know, it's not like you just walked off, you know, the practice stage and showed up on stage for the first time. You've obviously been doing this for a long time, man. Your vibe is there. Your voice is incredible. I was going to ask you about inspirations. And before I ask you, I want you guys to think about something. One of the things I love to do on the show is to talk to people about their guilty pleasures. So it's nice to be able to, you know, like the other day I talked to Dave Ellefson from Megadeth, and he was talking about how he said, you know, it was never okay to admit that you like disco unless you were looking for the chicks.
That's
you know?
true.
And so he was
Totally
saying like Depeche Mode and a lot of the Skinny Tie bands were bands that he really liked a lot. So think about your guilty pleasures, and then I'm going to start with Steven. I want to talk to you about your inspiration, man. Who did you find that you really you resonated with as an early singer?
Honestly, I grew up in the hood, and virtually everything I heard up until 10th grade in high school was all Soul Train music. It was the, you know, anything from that era. You know, I did more dancing and doing crooning type of singing before I started doing rock and roll. I didn't hear rock and roll really much until I got into high school. Wow. But as far as a voice, I think it would have to be David Ruffin of the Temptations. He had all the grit in the world, and he could be smooth when he wanted to. I mean, you listen to a song like "I Wish It Would Rain," and he's. I mean, there's so much pain and so much beauty in that voice of his. It was just, you know, it was a shame to lose him, and you know, it just, God, you know, people like that just could really bring it when they sang.
Right. Yeah. I love, because that's certainly not a guilty pleasure, man. There's nothing guilty about admitting that you were a Temptations fan. And I think, you know, all of those bands had so much, you know, substance to them. You know, and I've been talking to a lot of people about yacht rock lately, like the 70s stuff that was, you know, like the AM Gold. And a lot of those songs lyrically were really strong. And I was a late bloomer lyrics guy. I always listened to melodies, man. The last thing I'd ever listened to was lyrics until now, you know. And I'm like, I turned 50, and all of a sudden I recognized that, man, how could it be that 40 years ago these songs were written about my situation, right? I'm all self-absorbed, thinking, but
I think
you know why you were like that?
Why is that?
I'm going to tell you why you were like that. Because you're a musician. Immediately, melody.
Yeah.
That's not backwards what happened to you. Melody starts there. You only start paying it like, for example, take a guy like Dio. Ronnie could tell you a story without telling you the story.
Right. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
The king of the storytellers.
Steven knows what I'm talking about. He's the best to work with so far to me of all the singers that I've had to work with in the studio. I can pull stuff out of him that just blows me away. I'm like, wow. Did you hear that, Bob? And he's like, yes. Oh,
it was funny for me because I met Dio. It was I was just signed to Motown. We were in the middle of recording an album, and you know, I went to go support Chris and Matt. They were going to try Sarge with a new singer, and you know, so I went there with my date, and we're sitting. You know, found a table at the Troubadour because a lot of people just stand there, and you know, they were going to play. And I hear behind me just very soft, you know, could you scoot over just a little bit? You know, I was like, sure. And I turn around, Ronnie Dio, you know, like, oh my gosh, you know. So we chatted for a while, and I told him, I said, well, you know, this is the band I was just in that I got signed to Motown. And it was something I never knew about the guy. He says, Motown, really? I go, yeah, I'm very inquisitive. And he says, I used to do doo-wop. I was like, wait, what? Really? No. Right. And I think Dave, you were the one that did that. He was in a doo-wop band before he got into hard rock, wasn't he?
He was in a doo-wop band before he started playing bass in a rock band. Right. He sang way back when he was young. But thing
And
that
didn't he play trumpet too or something?
he was schooled in classical trumpet.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's what I
Had
thought.
a scholarship to the Juilliard School of Music, and he turned it down to go with Doug Thaler, that used to be Motley Crue's manager, on drums, and him on bass, and it was a band called Elf.
Oh
And
yeah.
he
I remember
that's
that.
Richie, okay, because Richie got sick of Deep Purple, took off, started Blackmore's Rainbow, and who was the first singer? Ronnie.
Yep.
Yeah, James
Right.
Dio, yeah.
But
yeah,
yeah,
that was kind of neat for me. I would say
I think
Go ahead.
he had a lot of Motown influence, to be honest
Yeah.
with. As a singer, I really do.
Yeah.
And plus, both
see that.
you boys were from upstate New York, weren't you?
Who, me?
Yeah, and Ronnie was from Schenectady. Where were you born?
Oh, I was Bronx.
Oh,
Bronx. Yeah. You
Yeah,
know,
I was in the city.
so
Close enough.
Yeah, man. Like,
But as far as guilty pleasure, I don't want to hear laughter or anything like that. But it's ABBA, really.
oh yeah. Well,
Oh yeah, dude.
it's
That's
just
amazing.
full of hooks, man.
Harmonies for me are super important when you're doing songs. It's funny when I would go up to Chris's place and we'd write. Dave would show up from Porter Ranch. I was about an hour away, maybe an hour and 15 minutes from Chris. Dave was about 2 hours away. I mean, he lived way up there in Porter Ranch just near the desert.
Yeah.
But we'd write when we do the vocals. It was funny because Chris is facing the computer and I'm standing behind him with a mic and headphones on, and you get done with the vocal track and I know you have a harmony. It's like, well, yeah, of course I got a harmony. So I throw a harmony in and we get done. He's like, you got another one? It's like, sure, So writing songs with these guys is a blast because it's and Jeff sings, obviously, he's got Loyal Order, so we knew that he had vocal talent too. But it's just fun because suddenly you just create this really nice, rich vocal environment for the song, and it just for the type of music that Rough Cutt writes, it just makes those hooks that much stronger. Yeah. And then there's the little one-liners, like you might be in a verse and I sing something and then Dave comes in and he does that little, like I said, that little Blue Angels harmony that sticks really close to you. And it's just little things like that that make that pie just so wonderful to bite into.
Yeah. God, I love that, man. I really like the Blue Angels analogy, because you can see that kind of with the band on stage. It looks like this formation. It's there, like it's tight. And, it's meticulous about the work that you put in. There's nothing, I mean, it feels, I guess, inspired, and it feels like you guys can, breathe, but there's nothing by accident that looks like, when you guys show up there, everything is well thought out, and from the set list to, the articulation, harmonies are huge on stage, and so many bands rely on backing tracks for those harmonies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the things that I love too, is just hearing really solid harmonies done really well. What's your favorite ABBA song, Stephen?
I think Fernando. It used to be Dancing Queen. My daughter made so much fun of me. Dad, really? Yeah, sorry, but I think Fernando just had it just has these, again, when they get to that chorus, man, you're like, yeah, oh my God, I wish I could sing that well.
Yeah, well, I think you do. Dave's going to chime in. I know he's a sucker for a ballad. So, Dave, I
was surprised that he said ABBA. I thought he was going to say Queen.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I really did.
Nothing guilty about that, man.
No,
man.
Don't get me wrong. I like Queen, too. I've always thought they were phenomenal. It's interesting, you were talking about the arena rock and starting to go back and like the 70s stuff. I think because, especially being a vocalist, you're always it's invariable that you're going to get who's your favorite. And I tell people it's anybody that is in doing for any of us, it's just hard to have a favorite because there's just, you find so much good in so many different people. One of my favorite singers that really kind of hit it in the 70s, he was never like Journey or anything like that, was Mickey Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
oh, dude, yeah.
One of the best, what I'd call pure vocalists.
Mm-hmm.
You hear him do the stuff with Elvin Bishop and then come back and do a song like Jane from Starship. and you're
he still hits it.
Him and Greg Slick worked really good together.
Yeah.
I mean, I forget the first guy, and she was such a, what do you say, dominant figure in the Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah.
And she was still in Starship when Mickey was in there. That was when I saw them live. They just blew me away.
Just phenomenal. Hey, I wanted to say thank you, Reggie. I really appreciate your comment there.
Yeah, Steven's going to win over Rough Cutt fans immediately. That's the truth. I mean, you got me for sure.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that, man.
For Mickey Thomas, I mean, we do a lot of shows together, and I consider Mickey a good bud. And the guy he can sing all of that stuff at this age. A lot of guys lose that range, man, but he can hit everything. He's got so much power. It blows my mind that they still can sound so good.
Yeah.
All right, so Dave Albert, I want to hear your guilty pleasure.
Oh man.
Dolly Parton, right?
No.
Hey, Jeff, it's hard to get Dave to talk, so let him talk, please.
Right. Well, it's hard to get me to talk about a guilty pleasure because there's so many.
Okay.
Right.
What's one that people would be so surprised to hear that Dave Alford is a fan?
Probably. It's definitely 70s rhythm and blues.
Okay.
Just
the genre.
I was a firm believer in bands like Mother's Finest.
Right. Oh,
I was, Shaka Khan used to just blow my mind.
Yeah.
And actually, it's very unique, like the way Stephen talks about unique things between him and Count and the old days of Sarge and stuff. Well, Chris and them guys did a lot of work with Brad Aaron, God rest his soul. And before I had ever moved to California, I'm in Atlanta and I'm working with Jeff Glicksman. He was, he's the guy that produced Kansas. Oh. And Brad Aaron was his engineer. Okay. So it's funny how everybody knows everybody. And then once Chris and I were working together, and then all of a sudden he brings Brad into a original lineup, record deal lineup of working with Rough Cutt. We did some demos with Brad, which was some really good stuff too. I mean, Hold On to Your Dreams. I mean, we did some stuff, like I said, were ballad driven. Mm-hmm. We did a couple of songs with him that were just bigger. I mean, sonically, they were huge. They were bigger than our records were. Okay. Yeah. And it's for me, all of those, I mean, some people call them garage bands, I guess. I never saw it that way. To me, if you get in a room and you got the right bass player and the right drummer, then a good guitar player can just come in and fall right in. Right. A good singer can come in and just fall right in. And just our singer, Stephen, he's amazing at making up stuff on the fly.
Yeah.
So I don't really know any other way to say that about guilty pleasure, because other than, get wasted and go like Slash and Duff and me and Paul and a bunch of people used to go to this place called Captain's Cabin, and Slash would be so wasted, but you put that Les Paul on him and it was like blues, like you didn't believe, and we would just jam in these little bars, Count and I went, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago or something, just the two of us, went out to this big place in the middle of some field, huge outdoor thing, and threw some songs together and got up and jammed. And I mean, that's the way we roll, like I'll write something, he'll write something, we'll get together and turn it into something.
Yeah. Well, you brought him up, and so folks that may be Rough Cutt fans but might not know your nickname, tell me, Count. Tell me where where the nickname came from, and then tell me your guilty pleasure.
Where the nickname? Honestly, it's a long story, so I'm going to encapsulate it. There's really not a big deal to it, but it is kind of funny, and that's that we were on the road. We had I think an 18-hour bus ride from one gig to another. So we had all been up all night partying, and we all passed out in the front, and everybody's like this. All of a sudden, 6 a.m, and the sun just starting to peak up, and I was passed out like this, and the sun came up, and I went, "Fuck!" Everyone went, "Help!"
I swear.
And it just stuck. It's just one of those stupid things.
I love it, man. All right, so guilty pleasure.
Seeing St. James. No.
I'm not talking about romanticism. I'm talking about songs.
No, there's a reason this guy's in this band.
Yeah.
But and I bet you, okay, first of all, I don't know how many people have ever even heard of this band. Sig Sputnik.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh God, yeah. I remember that.
All of my '80s Flock of Seagulls like brethren, they're all going to be watching this.
Okay,
Oh my God.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I have one of the.
Hold on, Steven. Hold on. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm just teasing. You got a Sig Sputnik story?
No, it's not that. But you're just talking about six, and you're talking about '80s, and I was just laughing because one of the guys that I work with in a cover band sometimes, he's the drummer currently for Naked Eyes. Always something there to remind
John
me.
Poley.
Yeah, John Poley. Yeah,
John's my brother, man. I love him.
John, he's a good friend. We work together a lot. But John, yeah, I always make jokes about always being something to remind me with him.
Never gets old, man. He laughs all the way to the next gig to get a paycheck.
Yeah, he does.
But man, that guy and I have had some road stories that didn't come out in the podcast that we did, but he's been on the show. So, Chris, why do you think it would be a guilty pleasure? Why do you think people might laugh about it?
Well, it was, if you looked at the music we were doing at the time and then looked at their music, it was like 180 degrees
totally
out of phase, man. They had just gone overboard with sense and all that stuff, and their music was all ding, 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 and it was with these over-the-top vocals and just crazy, and the way they looked, I mean, they were just they were nuts, man. They were crazy-looking guys.
What was it?
And Mir and I, the guitar player from Rough Cutt, we were both into them, and
really?
We'd crank up that stuff, and everyone else would go, "What the fuck are you guys?"
You did it just to piss them off, didn't you?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
All right.
I actually liked it. I actually liked the stuff. I thought it was cool, and so I liked some of that. I liked some of the alternative '80s stuff that came out. That came out the second British invasion. I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me,
Wendy Scriver here in the chat says, "Why did we never have a dance party way back then?" I was gonna try and emulate and impersonate Dave's pronunciation of your name, Jeff Buhner, but can you do it for me, Dave? Dave, would you mind asking Jeff what his guilty pleasure is?
I already know what his guilty pleasure is, but I want him to tell us.
But can you call him by name? Because I love hearing you say his name.
Jeff Buhner.
All right.
Really corrected that.
That was the best you've ever said it.
I had to practice.
I know you have worked on this a lot, man.
I thought it was Bruner up until about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I was scared to death. I remember asking him how to pronounce his last name. I said, because if there's a certain way that you pronounce it, I ain't going to say it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, as you guys you all know, Jeff is the nicest guy you're going to meet on the planet. But his look is intimidating, right? The dude looks like you ask him how to pronounce his name, and he's going to kick your ass, So
Carolyn, he looks like the devil.
Yes, Sam the Eagle. No, sorry, no.
Sam the Eagle.
You're good company, man.
I haven't heard that since high school.
Yeah, what is your nickname, Jeff?
I have many, man.
Yeah, I'm not talking about what your exes call you. All right, tell me your guilty pleasure, buddy.
Oh, dude, I don't really feel guilty about any of them, but I can remember what really pulled me into music when I was like a little kid is my family gatherings, like Thanksgivings and stuff like that. My brother Wayne and my cousin Jerry, would bring guitars and they'd get, they'd play all these like old Johnny Cash songs and Merle Haggard and stuff like that. So that's kind of what pulled me in. Next thing you know, I'm listening to John Denver and I'm like learning how to play guitar, playing John Denver songs. And then I can remember being a little kid and I heard this bass line in a song called Billy Don't Be a Hero. And I was like, that is super cool. What is that? And, and so listen to all that. And then like all the old country stuff is kind of what pulled me into music, really. And then when I have a couple older nephews, I was kind of an accident. You know what I mean? It's like my closest sibling was 16 years old when I was born. So, but anyway, one of my older nephews brought a Kiss Alive record home. And I can remember I can't even remember. I was like maybe 10 or something like that. And I was staring at this album cover for like, I don't know. I must have been in shock for about 10 hours, just staring at Jeff, it's time to come eat, and I was just like, hold on a minute, and then I heard Gene Simmons go woo on one of his, and I'm like, I'm playing bass. Yeah. I got to be that guy.
Right. Yeah. Like,
and so all that stuff. And then, I mean,
that's probably Cold Gin, right?
Yeah, totally. I was like, holy shit, what is that, man? And I, just felt that. But yeah, like, a lot of that 70s kind of some of the pop hits really kind of pulled me into music, and and that's kind of where it all came from. But like, the guilty part, I suppose, would be the John Denver stuff and everything like that. I thought he was just so cool, and then Waylon and Willie and all those guys, I just love the way they write songs. And I think it's because I don't know. I think the sincerity that's in the songs, it's even, they might not be the most positive songs, but there's a lot of sincerity and a real life lessons in a lot of them, So I think that's totally. And I like when you can connect musically that way. That's kind of why I play music, is to connect.
See, that's one of the examples of the lyrics got to him.
Yep. That's,
yeah, absolutely.
Was good at that.
You know what, man? I was a huge John Denver fan. My parents, that was their thing, man. John Denver and Peter, Paul, and Mary, and that kind of stuff. But I wasn't into the lyrics. The songs just hooked me. But now when I go back and I listen to John Denver lyrics now, it's hard not to get a little emotional. You hear some of that stuff, and
my sister had a bunch of like Herman's Hermits records and stuff like that. I think I actually still have it. Yeah, that kind of stuff really kind of is like, what is it's, on the Flintstones, they called it bug music, right? That's bug music. And it was cool to that. I mean, it's like, when I was listening to like, I immediately was into Kiss and like, the early Nugent stuff, and April Wine and all that stuff. I was starting to really kind of evolve musically in my taste anyway. And then my friend Mike Robbins, who was actually killed in Kosovo, one of my best friends. He was in the military over there. Mm-hmm. He was a guitar player. And he'd come over, and he was really kind of nerdy guy at the time. He's like, he was the guy that would come over and he'd bring Beatles records over, and he would bring Herman's Hermits and who did can't think of the name of the song. Oh, I'll skip that. But anyway, he would pull this stuff in, and I'd just be like, why? This is cool, I mean, like, and he's all the chord progressions and everything, really kind of got to me. And it wasn't until like I wasn't an immediate Beatles fan until like it was a slow burn for me. I don't know why I never really dug deep into them, but I just a few years ago I had this whole like moment where I was like, holy shit, these guys were better than everybody, in a lot of ways. But it took me a long time with those guys. But yeah, I mean, back then, that's kind of how I kind of started to evolve into it,
I was a late bloomer Beatles guy too. My son, who's 19 now, was 10, and at 9 years ago was when he really hit me to the magic of Beatles. I mean, I knew the hits, but we like my band, was from Liverpool, so there's a connection, the Beatles, Flock of Seagulls connection, and going there. You could see where so many things spawned musically, from there, like
from that 5-year period that they wrote 95% of their music. It's crazy. Do you remember a song? Do you remember a band called Paper Lace?
No.
And they had a song called "The Night Chicago Died."
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that band, that song really kind of hooked me too. And they had this like little mini bass thing going on in the middle, and I think that's kind of what made me gravitate towards playing bass, and the fact that I played trombone for all through school.
Yeah.
I was a trombone player, played Dixieland type stuff, and started playing bass about halfway through in stage band. And so I got acquainted with a lot of early jazz, not early jazz, but some of that big band kind of jazz type stuff in high school. So
I think Steven was raising his hand like he's a trombonist as well. It's
for 2 years in junior high school.
Okay, so I think
that's awesome.
I played trumpet for a couple of years.
Okay, this is what we're doing. The next Rough Cut show. All right, folks. We're gonna play our new song, but before we get started, we just want to show you.
I was going to say with what Jeff was saying that when I was little, okay, I started playing guitar. It's funny because it was Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My stepdad brings me home a guitar. I'm 6 years old, and showed me how to make an E chord, and he wanted me to learn Folsom Prison. But he couldn't do it with he didn't have the chicka-dun, 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 the rhythm.
Yeah.
And it came natural to me. So about a year later or so, and I'm seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and I'm watching them three guys standing up front with their guitars on, not really doing much. And there's this maniac behind them, hair, and all this stuff. And I'm going, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay? And then by the time I got turned on to Led Zeppelin and knew John Bonham, forget about it.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Well, that's another whole topic, right?
I'll be back in a second, guys.
Jeff's got a pizza he's got to go pick up. He's got to go do an Uber delivery.
Darren was here. I thought he was going to chime in with us, but
that's okay though. I'm glad that we can kind of tie into some of those early touring dates because you talked, Dave, you and I were talking before we went live about the Love Drive tour, how you were working with Scorpions back in the day.
Yeah.
I was such a hardcore fan, man. Do you maybe have a favorite touring story with those guys?
Well, Herman Rarebell was a Ludwig endorsee, just like myself.
Right.
And prior to him leaving the band, there was a couple of times in Chicago that him and I kind of got in some trouble with the hotel and
oh man, Herman the German.
Yeah, Herman the German.
Like, tell me about what kind of trouble, Dave?
Well, just getting a little frisky with the ladies, and me, I'm pretty loud sometimes, and we're in the bar, and anyway, I'm not going to embarrass myself.
That's all right.
But what I was going to say though is those days were the best days for me too. The 70s. I love the 80s wave. I was a part of it. I was in the middle of it. But man, I can tell you, like, the most excitement that I ever had was like Grand Funk Railroad was the
dude, yeah.
To have the corner Times Square, the album Closer to Home. You'd be in New York and look up and it'd be a rock band going all the way across the ticker tape and down the other side. Insane, And those days to me laid the bedrock for what me and Chris do. Yeah. I mean, Chris and I, he's the best writer for my style, and I feel the same way of what I bring to his style, because when we do stuff together, it's magic. And then having Jeff come in and be able to lock up with the rhythm section. And like I mentioned earlier, then I put Steven in there, and then he's such to me, having Steven as our new lead singer is way more versatile than what Rough Cutt was subjected to in our past, okay? Because he brings multiple type sounds and styles. To our music. And Chris and I love that. Yeah. Because I can say, no, not like that, try this, and he'll just go, whoa, and then sing it, and it just
it seems natural. When you see it live, it totally seems natural. There's no but some bands will go up there and the guy will be mailing it in. He's practiced his posture in front of the mirror, and you can totally see that there's nothing authentic or sincere.
You're talking about the first show that we did
Yeah.
That's
a year
insane.
ago with 3 rehearsals.
Yeah,
Right.
that's nuts. That's
Yeah, totally right.
That's amazing to me.
That's good, man. That's good.
Especially after we drove that far to do
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
that.
oh my God.
yeah,
I got stuck both ways in like, you know, Arctic temperatures. It was hysterical.
are you you said you're from the Bronx originally, but how long have you been in LA?
Most of my life. I don't think I was in New York for much more than a year or two. I was a little kid. My dad used to make fun of me when he was alive. He used to make fun of me for liking New York teams. Said I'm from New York. He goes, yeah, for like 2 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
I
Long
think that
enough to get some soul, though, brother.
that's right.
Yeah.
And-
That also might have been Carson and all the gospel stuff when I was a little boy. So, you know, I'm sure that played into it somewhat.
I'm sure.
It's funny you mentioned Herman Rarebell. I only ever met the guy once in San Pedro. We were playing in a little club, and this was when I was in, CC DeVille and I were in a band.
Really?
And CC was good friends with all these guys, and the Scorpions, like 3 of the Scorpions came out to see us at a place in San Pedro in the harbor of all places, right? And, you know, we went and sat.
What's the name of that club? I remember that place. What was the name of that club, Chris?
The Waters Club.
The Waters Club.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, CC's, I want to introduce you to Herman Rarebell. And he's, oh yeah, sit down. Yeah, come on, sit down. Let's have some beers. You know, and
I'm surprised you don't remember the party we had over where Herman showed up. Maybe you were there. You were there at my place, at our place in Hollywood. And it was he showed up one night over there. She'd have these big after parties, and everybody'd show up, the crew boys, and
that was in Culver City, Chris, wasn't it?
Well, this was actually off Wilcox, off of Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and so you may or may not remember. Yeah.
I love that you guys have these memories. You know, a lot of guys that started out in those 80s, their memory's shot, man.
They don't remember anything.
A lot of blackout time. And Reggie says that club was called Dancing Waters.
Dancing Waters, and then later I think they dropped from. I think they dropped the dancing, and it just became the Waters Club. It was a different place to play. I remember my friend and I sneaking in there to see a band when we were like 16 or 17 years old, because it was an over 21 type of deal. And I don't even remember how we got in. He had a friend or something like that, and we see rock and roll bands there. It was just like, oh my god, but it was a fun place to play. They had a big stage, big roomy. I had, CC DeVille on one side playing guitar, and then Lonnie of the Bullet Boys was playing. He and I grew up maybe 2 blocks of each other. And
really?
Carson, yeah.
Lonnie Vincent, yeah.
Crazy.
God, I love that. We talk about some of the touring stuff, and I'm thinking about the new record. When the record comes out, some people were asking about when it was going to be released, and I know that you guys have a plan, and you've been writing a lot of stuff, which is fantastic. I'm thinking about a year down the road, right? You get your new record out. It has blown up, and everybody is mesmerized. They've already got a copy of it. They're dying to see Rough Cutt. Tell me about a touring lineup and what your hope would be. Like, who would be the best band to be out on the road with? Chris.
Oh God. Yeah. I'm not even there yet, man.
All right, Dave, give me.
I plead the fifth.
Oh, really? Well, because you toured with a lot of bands that had, of course, I mean, you talked Scorpions, and you toured with Dio back in the day.
I'll answer.
It'd be fun to go out with some of our friends.
Yeah.
Accept would be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Right. LA Guns, doing shows. Shows.
Yeah. I mean, we got a lot of friends that would be fun.
The Portland show with LA Guns was a blast.
That was cool. I've seen LA Guns, a good half dozen times. That was the first time I saw him with Phil Lewis singing. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, really?
I saw every other lineup.
Yeah.
I've seen every lineup, but now that Tracy is back and everything's like really good, we really enjoyed playing with those guys too. Even though we had just got out of the car, went up on stage and played. I mean, it was a hard one, but man, Chris and I are like troopers. You can't put us down. No way.
That's rock and roll, man. That's how it goes. And man, I really want to thank Scully, for helping me sort of connect with you guys. And Jeff, as you know, man, you are my brother. I'm so glad to see you in one of my favorite bands from the era. And the new stuff is so good that I wouldn't even call it that era anymore. I mean, you guys had a history that started there, but you're bringing it back where a lot of us were so desperate for great music from that genre. And
Sure.
I'm so excited about it, man. I can't wait to hear the other songs. The new one blows my mind. The video, and you couldn't have had a better guy shooting the video too. Rob Dacre, man, that guy, he knows his stuff. He's a pro, and so I'm excited to see when that comes out. And people are going to be blown away if you guys are watching this and you want to know more about ways to follow Rough Cutt and how they can find out about new material. What's the best social media way?
Just if you're in Facebook, just type in Rough Cutt. We've got a page and we've got a group up there. Or
join our group, too.
And we're working on a new website right now.
Same thing with Twitter and same with Instagram. So if you just type in Rough Cutt, you'll get directed to our pages.
Right on.
And we've got Rough Cutt, roughcutt.com.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, it's everybody.
That's in the works. But
okay.
Yeah.
When people that maybe didn't quite know enough about Rough Cutt, if you're out there searching for it, it's 2 T's, Rough, C-U-T-T. And man, I am excited.
And that's R-O-U-G-H, not rough.
Hold on. If I can loop you doing that, Dave, that's going to be the promo for.
He just did, Dave. He did. Kevin's quick, man. Trust me. You have no idea how fast Kevin is with his phone and his like.
I could turn. Yeah.
He probably already got it, and he's going to hold me hostage.
It's looped.
Kevin can take 1 millisecond of your life and make it eternal.
Yeah, but
I'm telling you.
That could be good and bad. I know.
It's usually in a compromising situation.
Most of those days.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean,
most of those days at the NAMM show, those were pre-sober Kevin, Jeff.
Yeah.
So, but man,
but back in those days, the NAMM show was the shit.
Yeah.
Anybody that was anybody went to the NAMM show.
Right. Yeah. Now it's just Jeff and I looking for those people.
Dude, it's like, all right, when can we get out of here?
Yeah. I was going to try really quick and just let people know, if you're watching this and you have not yet done so, subscribe to this channel. If you go to youtube.com/allaccesslive with Kevin Rankin, this video will be archived up there, and I'll have links to their social media pages so you can subscribe to those and be notified when the releases come out. I have wonderful sponsors. I want to thank 5 Star Guitars again. Thanks to Scully and his management for putting this together.
Right.
Man, I can't thank you guys enough. This is awesome. Dave Alford, Chris Hager, Steven Santiago, and Jeff Booner.
Boehner.
Hey, man, Boehner. There we go. Yeah, I love it. Thank you guys so much, man. Have a wonderful holiday, and let's get back out there rocking so we can see you guys live.
You
Thank you guys so much. All right, take care, guys.